email to win more corporate groups. And what we want to look at is essentially this: how to use email to win more corporate groups. Three things we're looking at with this. So the first one, know who. We're going to get into that in a second. Second one, we want to talk about segmentation. So we're going to dive in a little bit on that. And then finally, we want to end with this idea that a lot of people get stuck with just, what do I send? I don't know what to send. And so we want to give you some examples of what to send by the time we get to the end of this presentation. So starting with number one, know who. We're always going to push this idea that we need to identify someone we're talking to. And this is an old trick of writing letters. Adam, do you know this story about writing letters that someone was it Churchill that wrote letters to his sister, and that was a public thing? I can't remember. I shouldn't try and bring up this kind of history in the middle of this. Anyways, let's get back to this of knowing who. When we know, Sean, don't you smile at me. When we know who we're actually going after, we can understand more about what that situation looks like. A lot of friction with being able to get out emails to begin with is because we're trying to talk to too many people. And we think we're trying to address a group. I don't know what to say to a group. And not knowing what to say to a group is a fantastic problem to have, because it's the right problem. And we don't always want to look at talking to a group. So the better we can understand, and let's pick a person that we're writing these emails to on the other side, and it's going to help us clarify those messages a lot more. And for that, I just want you to really get this image in your head of who does need to read this email. Who is that target guest that you're looking for, that ideal person that we would love to have? And then just picture them sitting down and getting an email from you. Why should they care? What does that email need to say? Are we just hitting them with generic information? Are we just telling them stuff about the town that they don't care about? We don't know until we figure out who is reading. And that's where just pick a person, just pick one person and say, this is who I'm going to start writing some of these emails for, to start getting something out the door. So if you're not doing anything, at least start doing something and target it to one person, and we'll be in a better spot. But if we can get past that, we want to get into this idea of segmenting your contacts. And segmenting your contacts just means having different lists. We just want to put people into different lists so we can have specific conversations with them. So someone coming through who may have been there for a private tour is then going to not have the same messaging of someone who may have taken a public tour. And so keeping those people separate is a big part in being able to identify who we want to have those conversations with. I have some examples of those segmentations in the next slide here when we talk about what to send. So what are we actually going to send to these people? So it starts with understanding a little more about who they are and kind of how you started some of those conversations to begin with. And if you weren't able to join us, we do have a blog from last month that we can post up here in the chat. And inside of that blog, we talked about some different ways to start approaching corporate tours in some different ways. So that blog on our site has a lot more information. Sean, if you'd be able to get that posted inside the chat for everyone to go access. So once we figure out kind of who, then it's what do we want to send? And so we broke this down into about 7 different categories. I just wanted to throw them all out there for you, because it depends on the context with which we're talking to someone. So for a cold outreach email, we don't want to go in heavy with a sales angle. And this is what we see a lot. This is the stuff we get all the time. It's the people sending you a LinkedIn Sales Navigator message, telling you everything they do, and then asking you to buy from them at that very moment. Way too big. That is too big of a conversation to go in and have, to just come in and say, I don't know you, but buy from me. So for cold outreach, when you're looking at doing something cold, introduce yourself, just say hi. And for so many tour and experience companies, what you do is already so fascinating that for a lot of companies, it already says in your domain name in the email they're getting from you that you're a tour, or you're a food tour, an experience tour. That already says so much about what you do that we don't need to go in with that heavy-handed sales pitch to start. So for cold outreach, look at introducing yourself, just saying hi. Don't go in too heavy there. For a warm outreach, so now let's say you got introduced to someone, which is what this situation would look like. There, we need to learn more about what problem you're solving for them. They're hiring you for a problem. It's they want to get their team together to do something and they can't find something to do. It's they have family in town. They want to pull everyone together. We want to find out what their problem is and then say, great, our tour, our experience helps you solve that problem. We want to start making connections that way. So on warm outreach, again, don't go in heavy with the sale. Let's not come in with prices and here's everything we do right away. Let's make some of those initial emails just, hey, you know what can I help you with? What are you looking to do? What are you looking to accomplish? You're looking to start a conversation with them through email. Email is just that digital conversation. As we get into public guests, we got kind of public, local, and public visitor. So when we want to be able to split those two people out into different categories, because again, these are different conversations. Our digital guidebook is going to help companies do that, to be able to have that split so you can see local versus visitor. But those are two different conversations. So the first one, for a local who may have taken a public tour, let's encourage them to book private. Let's make sure they're aware that private's an option. Let's talk about, or maybe even their corporate group, of, hey, maybe your work is looking for an outing. You should come talk to us. Public on the visitor. They're not in the area again. They're probably not our target sale. Let's see if we can leverage that visitor to then refer a friend who may live in the area that they were out here visiting. And corporate, we got two different conversations there. We have the person who coordinated it, and then we have the person who just attended it. Ideally, we want to get everyone's email in these situations. And that's something we're helping more tours do, is get more of the emails from people who attend these tours. But for that corporate coordinator, we want to look at, hey, are there any other departments? We kind of want to ask for that referral at that point and say, who else? Who else do you know that may enjoy this experience as well? It should be connected. It's going to help us get more of those referrals through. On the corporate tour attendee, that's another conversation. Maybe we want to talk about family and friends in town at that point. And finally, I threw in one more category here of unknown, which again, if we don't know who's on the list, we don't know who we're talking to, we still really believe corporate tours are a giant fundamental building block right now for so many experienced companies to really up-level what they're currently doing by focusing a little more on corporate tours. So if we don't have anything to say to people right now, tell them you've got corporate tours available. Start pushing that messaging out there so they understand that you're a little more than just what they've seen from you before. So those are the 7 big areas of what to send, broken down by the type of customer you may be going after. So again, for that, for using email to win more corporate groups, we talked about, let's know who is on the other side of that email that you're trying to send to. Let's look at some of those segments that we just went through to break contacts into different lists. And then finally, some of those initial conversations of how to start some of those conversations with these different people that you're reaching out to.